One ghost, one car, one pulse-pounding revenge ride across the desert. The Wraith wasn't just a motorsport mashup, it was a cosmic one-man road rage anthem. But beneath the glowing Interceptor and eyeless bad guys, the wildest stories aren't even in the final cut. Buckle in for 20 weird, shocking, and behind-the-scenes facts you definitely didn't know, and might still blow your mind. Number 1. The Interceptor car was a $1 million real concept car. The sleek black car that steals the show in the Wraith, known as the Dodge M4S Turbo Interceptor, wasn't a movie prop. It was a fully functional concept car developed by Dodge and PPG Industries as a pace car for Indy racing events. Built with a mid-engine design, a twin turbocharged 2.2-liter engine, and capable of hitting 194 miles per hour, this machine was a beast for its time. The car's development cost over $1 million, making it one of the most expensive movie vehicles ever featured in a low-budget 80s film. For production, Dodge supplied the real car for close-up shots, while fiberglass replicas were built for stunts. Most of those replicas were destroyed during the high-speed crash scenes, but the real M4S survived. After filming, it was returned to Dodge and later displayed at the Walter P. Chrysler Museum. To this day, it remains one of the coolest and rarest cars ever to appear on film. Number 2. A cameraman died, and the crew called the cars death traps. Filming the Wraith wasn't just intense on screen, it was dangerous behind the scenes. During the second day of shooting, a tragic accident occurred when a camera car lost control during a stunt rehearsal, flipping over and killing cinematographer Bruce Ingram. Other crew members were seriously injured, and one suffered permanent damage. The accident sent shockwaves through the production and forced director Mike Marvin to cut several planned sequences due to safety concerns and budget restrictions. Cast members later recalled that many of the vehicles used for the street races were poorly rigged and extremely unsafe, with minimal roll protection. David Sherrill, who played Skank, described them as death traps that everyone feared driving. Despite the tragedy, the crew pushed forward, finishing the film under tight constraints. The accident remains one of the darkest and least talked about moments in cult movie history. If you're enjoying this so far, hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome movie facts. And tell us in the comments, what movie brings you the most nostalgia and which one should we cover next? Number 3. A nearby movie set accidentally ruined a take. While filming one of the Wraith's big street racing sequences, the crew suddenly heard a loud "action" over their radios. The problem? It didn't come from their own set. Nearby, the comedy Three Amigos was being filmed in Arizona, and its radio signal accidentally crossed over onto the Wraith's frequency. The unexpected call threw everyone off, causing the actors to mistime their cues and completely botch the take. Cars launched too early, stunts misfired, and the scene had to be reset, wasting hours of preparation. Crew members later joked that the two productions were dueling through walkie-talkies. The mix-up became one of the strangest behind-the-scenes stories, especially since the two films couldn't be more different in tone. Despite the mishap, the team laughed it off and got the scene right on the next attempt, turning an annoying mistake into a legendary piece of filming trivia. Number 4. The villains drove real muscle cars and wrecked them for real. Packard Walsh's gang rolled in with some serious hardware, real vintage muscle cars. The lineup included a 7 Chevy Corvette, a 66 Plymouth Barracuda, a 77 Pontiac Firebird, a Dodge Daytona Turbo Z, and even a beat-up Chevy pickup. These weren't Hollywood fiberglass shells. They were actual road-ready cars purchased cheap for the production. The downside? Most of them were destroyed during filming. The high-speed chases and crashes were done practically, with real collisions and rollovers, meaning each stunt risked totaling the vehicle. Some of the damage you see in the film wasn't scripted, it just happened during the chaos of filming and made it into the final cut. Crew members said parts were constantly falling off, and repairs were done on the fly just to keep shooting. The result was gritty, authentic action scenes, but at the cost of several classic cars sacrificed for movie history. Number 5. Charlie Sheen barely worked on the movie. Although Charlie Sheen is the star of The Wraith, he was barely on set. At the time, Sheen was juggling multiple projects, including Platoon, which had a tight shooting schedule. As a result, he was only available for about 2 weeks of filming, far less than the rest of the cast. This forced director Mike Marvin to restructure several scenes and use stand-ins for certain shots, including parts of the love scenes with Sherilyn Fenn. Some wide shots and even driving sequences featured doubles rather than Sheen himself.
I might let you go. Courage isn't easy to come by. That's how he keeps those goons with him all the time. They're just scared.
Despite his limited time on set, Sheen's presence gave the film star power, and his mysterious performance helped define the eerie tone of the character Jake. It's ironic that one of his shortest shoots became one of his most iconic cult roles, proving sometimes less really is more. Number 6. The movie opened on just 88 screens, but HBO saved it. When The Wraith hit theaters in 1986, it was set up to fail. Orion Pictures gave it a shockingly limited release, opening on only 88 screens across the United States. The marketing budget was almost non-existent, and the tragic on-set accident during production made the studio nervous about promoting it. Unsurprisingly, the film performed poorly at the box office and seemed destined to vanish into obscurity. However, HBO picked it up for late-night airings in the late 80s, and everything changed. Constant reruns introduced The Wraith to a new audience of teenagers and car enthusiasts who quickly turned it into a cult favorite. The film's unique mix of supernatural revenge, neon-soaked car chases, and a killer soundtrack made it stand out on cable. Without HBO, this movie likely would have been forgotten. Now it's a cult classic remembered by fans decades later. Number 7. The synth-heavy score was made using a rare instrument. Instead of going with a traditional rock soundtrack like many 80s action films, The Wraith went full-on futuristic with a pulsing electronic score. Composer Michael Honig, known for his work in electronic music, teamed up with J. Peter Robinson to create the film's eerie yet adrenaline-pumping soundscape. They used the Ned Synclavier II, a cutting-edge digital synthesizer at the time, to produce the unique tones. This instrument was so advanced and expensive that only major studios and a few top artists owned one. The result was a score that felt otherworldly, perfectly matching the ghostly, sci-fi vibe of the movie. Combined with the hard rock songs sprinkled throughout, the music became one of the most distinctive aspects of the film. Even today, fans of 80s synthwave point to The Wraith's soundtrack as an underrated gem that added serious style to its desert revenge story. Number 8. Ozzy Osbourne's song helped define the movie's tone. The Wraith features one of the coolest 80s rock soundtracks of any cult film, and a big highlight is Ozzy Osbourne's track Secret Loser. This song blasts during one of the movie's high-speed sequences, giving the scene a raw, rebellious edge. At the time, having Ozzy on the soundtrack was a big deal. He was already a rock icon, and his involvement gave the film instant credibility with music fans. Director Mike Marvin initially wasn't sure about including it, but once the scene was edited together, the aggressive guitar riffs and Ozzy's intense vocals fit perfectly with the ghostly car and its vengeance-fueled mission. The track became so tied to the movie that many fans can't hear it without thinking of the turbo Interceptor tearing through the desert. This unexpected music choice helped solidify The Wraith's status as a cult favorite with a killer rock and roll vibe. Number 9. The line, "Whoever he is, he's weird and pissed off," was improvised. One of the most memorable quotes in The Wraith comes from Skank, when he nervously mutters, "Whoever he is, he's weird and pissed off." Surprisingly, this line wasn't in the original script. Actor David Sherrill came up with it on the spot during filming, trying to add some humor to the tense scene. The director loved the delivery so much that it stayed in the final cut. Fans later pointed out that the line felt like something straight out of a John Carpenter movie, with its mix of dread and dark comedy. Over time, it became a defining quote for the film, perfectly summing up the mysterious nature of the Wraith and the gang's growing fear. It's a small improvisation that ended up becoming one of the most iconic moments in this cult classic. Number 10. The movie's original title was totally different. Before it became The Wraith, the film had a far less mysterious working title, Turbo Interceptor. Director Mike Marvin originally wanted the movie named after the menacing black car, believing it would draw in car enthusiasts and emphasize the high-speed action. Early promotional materials even used the name briefly during pre-production. However, the studio felt Turbo Interceptor sounded too much like a straight racing film and didn't capture the supernatural revenge angle. They pushed for something darker and more enigmatic. Eventually settling on The Wraith. The word Wraith means a ghost or specter, perfectly describing Charlie Sheen's otherworldly vigilante, while Marvin continued calling it Turbo Interceptor in interviews for months. The final title helped the movie stand out. Looking back, it's hard to imagine this cult classic being called anything else. Number 11. Randy Quaid filmed all his scenes in just 1 week. Randy Quaid plays Sheriff Loomis, the only authority figure trying to make sense of the supernatural chaos in The Wraith. Despite his character's importance, Quaid's time on set was incredibly brief. He completed all his scenes in roughly 1 week. Originally, Loomis was meant to have a bigger storyline involving more investigation and even hints about the Wraith's origin. However, after the on-set accident and budget cuts, many of these scenes were dropped.
Kind of a mess now, don't you think?
The gutter boy escaped. They were right there.
As a result, his character feels like he pops in and out of the movie without much resolution. Even with minimal screen time, Quaid's deadpan delivery and puzzled expressions added an extra layer of humor to the otherwise dark revenge story. His short but memorable performance became part of the film's quirky charm. Number 12. Johnny Depp visited the set as Sherilyn Fenn's boyfriend. During the filming of The Wraith, Sherilyn Fenn, who played Carrie, was dating a young Johnny Depp. At the time, Depp was still a few years away from becoming a household name, but he frequently visited the set in Tucson, Arizona to support Fenn. Cast members recalled that Depp kept a low profile, hanging around the hotel and occasionally watching scenes being shot. While he didn't interact much with the production, his presence caused a stir among the crew, who recognized he was on the cusp of stardom. Actor David Sherrill later joked that Depp seemed quiet but cool while they were filming. Though Depp never appeared in the movie, his behind-the-scenes connection adds an unexpected bit of Hollywood trivia to the Wraith's cult legacy. Number 13. Rughead's crazy hair was a David Lynch homage. Clint Howard's character, Rughead, is instantly recognizable thanks to his bizarre, puffed-up hairstyle that looks almost otherworldly. This wasn't a random choice. It was a deliberate nod to David Lynch's cult classic Eraserhead. Director Mike Marvin wanted Rughead to have an unsettling, eccentric vibe, so he asked Howard to style his hair in a way that would stand out as strange and memorable. The wild look gave the character an oddball energy that fit perfectly with the gang of road pirates. Interestingly, Rughead is the only gang member who survives, and his unique appearance makes him unforgettable. Howard fully embraced the weirdness, leaning into the character's nervous, twitchy personality. The combination of his performance and the Lynch-inspired hairstyle turned Rughead into one of the film's most iconic characters. Number 14. Randy Quaid's original storyline was almost supernatural. Sheriff Loomis, played by Randy Quaid, was originally written to have a much bigger and stranger role in The Wraith. Early drafts of the script gave him a subplot where he investigated the murders with the help of a local psychic, slowly uncovering the Wraith's ghostly origin. These scenes were supposed to tie the supernatural elements directly to the investigation, giving the sheriff a more active part in solving the mystery. However, after the tragic on-set accident and budget cuts, this entire storyline was removed. What remained was a much smaller role, where Loomis mainly reacts to the chaos rather than drives the plot. Fans have long speculated about what those scenes might have added, as they would have made the film's eerie tone even darker and more mysterious. Number 15. A whole psychic witch subplot was deleted. One of the strangest cuts from The Wraith was an entire subplot involving a psychic prairie witch. In early drafts, Sheriff Loomis was supposed to visit this mysterious woman to learn more about the Wraith's supernatural powers and its connection to Jake. The scenes would have added a creepy, mystical layer to the story, expanding on the Wraith's origin and making the revenge theme even more otherworldly. Actress Dick Butkus, who was set to appear in this storyline, had all her scenes cut when the production ran out of time and money after the tragic stunt accident. Without these sequences, the film took on a faster, more action-focused pace, leaving the Wraith's powers mostly unexplained. Fans still debate whether those lost scenes would have made the film scarier or just slowed it down, but their removal added to the movie's mysterious, unfinished feel. Number 16. Clint Howard's Rughead was originally meant to die. In the original script, Rughead, the twitchy, wild-haired mechanic, was supposed to meet the same fiery fate as the rest of Packard's gang. However, during production, director Mike Marvin decided to spare him. Why? Clint Howard brought such a quirky, sympathetic energy to the role that Marvin thought killing him off felt wrong. Instead, Rughead ends up being the only gang member to survive the Wraith's vengeance, walking away terrified but alive. This last-minute change gave the movie an unexpected twist, as it showed the Wraith wasn't just killing indiscriminately, but targeting those who were truly guilty. Howard later joked that he was thrilled to survive, since most of his characters usually die. His survival gave fans one of the film's most memorable what happens next moments. Number 17. The Wraith's kills used creepy symbolism. One of the eeriest details in The Wraith is how the gang members die. Unlike typical car crash victims, their bodies remain intact, but their eyes are burned out completely. This wasn't just a random special effect. Director Mike Marvin explained that the Wraith's revenge was supernatural, and the burnt eyes symbolized the last thing they ever saw, the blinding flash of the Wraith's power. Each death also freed one of the metal braces on the Wraith's suit, visually showing that he was regaining pieces of his humanity with every kill. This small detail gave the character an almost mythological depth, turning the revenge story into something more like a ghostly purification. Fans have debated the meaning of the eye burning ever since, with many calling it one of the creepiest and most unique touches in the entire film. Number 18. The Turbo Interceptor disappeared from the public eye. After filming Wrapped, the original Dodge M4S Turbo Interceptor mysteriously vanished from the spotlight. For years, fans assumed it had been destroyed during production because so many stunt replicas were wrecked in the crash scenes. In reality, the real car was quietly stored away by Chrysler and only resurfaced years later at the Walter P. Chrysler Museum. Even stranger, when the museum closed in 2016, the car's location became uncertain again. It now occasionally appears at private car shows, making sightings rare and exciting for die-hard fans. Number 19. Critics initially hated the movie. When The Wraith hit theaters in 1986, critics tore it apart. Reviews slammed the film as a nonsensical ghost car cartoon and called the plot confusing. Leonard Maltin dismissed it as a movie only for those who like fast cars and noise, while other reviewers mocked the cheesy dialogue and low budget. Despite this, audiences who discovered it on cable and VHS loved its mix of supernatural revenge, neon aesthetics, and wild car stunts. Over time, the movie transformed from a critical flop into a cult classic with a devoted fan base. Today, its 33% Rotten Tomatoes score feels irrelevant. Fans celebrate it for exactly the reasons critics once hated it. Number 20. The Wraith's director once feared the film would never be finished. Director Mike Marvin has admitted in interviews that after the on-set accident and budget cuts, he thought The Wraith might be abandoned completely. The production lost funding, several scenes were scrapped, and schedules were drastically shortened. Marvin was forced to rewrite sections of the script daily to keep the project alive. Against all odds, they wrapped filming, but he still worried it would be shelved by the studio. When Orion finally released it, Marvin expected it to disappear quickly. Instead, years of HBO reruns turned it into a cult classic. Looking back, he's said the chaotic shoot made the movie's underdog success even sweeter. That's The Wraith, a movie born from chaos, accidents, and pure 80s creativity. From a $1 million ghost car to lost scenes and near disasters, its behind-the-scenes story is just as wild as what's on screen. If you love these facts, hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Which one blew your mind the most?